All right, everybody. So, like I said, I want to speak a lot today about Hong Kong. I have a couple of news articles that I'd like to share with you just to kind of get you thinking about what the potential outcomes are for this global macroeconomic situation that we're living in. And I don't think it's a coincidence that you're hearing me talk more about Hong Kong as you now see this warning coming out from Joe Biden today about Hong Kong. I told you guys about that on Tuesday. And you're hearing even Patrick Bet-David, somebody that I really look up to. He's even talking about Hong Kong yesterday in his podcast with General Spalding. So if you stay here with me, we're going to go through this entire segment here of news articles, and we're going to end by watching this clip from yesterday's PBD podcast, Patrick Bet-David's podcast, talking about what General Spalding says. So we're going to talk about the whole thing, and then if we get through all that, we'll get into some inflation stuff. But the first article I want to share with you is this from Business Insider. So what this says is that Hong Kong police arrested 4 people over an alleged $155 million Tether money laundering scheme. Now, before we even read this article, everybody knows that Tether has become a hot topic lately because people are saying that the company itself is very, very close. It's walking the line to being a scam because they used to say that their Tether was backed one-to-one by USD, but now it's backed by what they say is like a collateral form of that. And they also were shut off from banking with Wells Fargo and a few other big banks. That's the company Tether. You can do some research onto that if you'd like. We're not going to go into that right now. But just hearing that this fraud that they caught was associated with Tether, I don't think is a coincidence. So let's read this article really quick. It says Hong Kong authorities arrested 4 men over a $155 million money laundering scheme. The men aged between 24 and 33 had made transactions in Tether on a trading platform. Cryptocurrencies have long been used in crime as they can provide anonymity and be hard to trace, which is not true. We are now seeing that the anonymity and the hard to trace stuff that the government says crypto is not true because the government took the money back from the Colonial Pipeline hackers. The UK government, even a few weeks ago, said that they got money back from a recent group of hackers. So it seems like the government can actually wheel this back in and pretend almost like they're giving the ransomware people the rewards that they want, but then they can recover these funds. So here it says Hong Kong customs authorities have arrested 4 people. According to reports in Bloomberg and the local media, the 4 men aged between 24 and 33 were arrested in an operation called, quote, Coin Breaker. Hong Kong customs officials told the media that the men had opened various bank accounts and made transactions in Tether, the biggest stablecoin, through a crypto exchange. The transactions involved 1.2 billion Hong Kong dollars of cryptocurrency, which is roughly 155 million US dollars. The officials said it was the first time they had detected a suspected money laundering scheme that used digital currency. That's BS. They did not name the crypto trading platform involved, and insiders have customs office. Cryptocurrencies have long been used in crime, it goes on to say, thanks to the fact that they can be used anonymously and are hard to trace, but not impossible. Just remember that. On Friday, the U.S. District Court in Seattle said a 33-year-old identity thief who used Bitcoin to avoid detection was sentenced to 3 years. Exactly. He was caught. And then here, on Tuesday, London's Metro Police seized $249 million worth of cryptocurrency in a suspected money laundering case. So, with all of that being said, it just kind of it's a good intro into today's conversation, showing the crackdown in Hong Kong, not just on cryptocurrencies, but on their economy as a whole. Now, this comes at the same time as Biden is going to issue the warning that we talked about earlier this week. I think I was one of the first people on the internet to talk about this warning because it was not being discussed earlier this week, but now it's coming today, where he's finally going to say to businesses, be aware of what's going on in Hong Kong. But wait till you hear his quote. It's actually funny. So he goes, the situation in Hong Kong is deteriorating, and the Chinese government is not keeping its commitment that it made. How it would deal with Hong Kong, Biden said at the White House yesterday. He said, quote, it is more of an advisory as to what may happen in Hong Kong. It's as simple as that, and it's as complicated as that. Now, if that's not a Joe Biden quote, I don't know what is. Come on, man. It's as simple as that, and it's as complicated as that. Like, that doesn't even make any sense, bro. You're just talking. You're a talking head. The advisory is expected to be issued on Friday. It will underscore how swiftly China's push for more control over Hong Kong has brought an end to the one century, two systems approach that Beijing promised when it resumed oversight of the former British colony in 1997. That's proved a death knell for the territory's independent judiciary. I don't know how to say that. They always be throwing words at me. Let's look this up. peg now shit. God, you guys think I'm probably an idiot. We're just going to move on. Let me move on here. Blah, blah, blah. Got this ad blocking me. That's great. The key message in the administration's business advisory will be that the Hong Kong's once independent legal system is now essentially subject to China's mainland influence, where the ruling Communist Party has almost complete control. So again, what's going on in Hong Kong right now is you're not just seeing people leave the country because they know that their democratic rights are being infringed upon by the CCP, but now you're seeing our government say, hey, businesses in Hong Kong, be aware that we might do something if China continues to impose its iron fist, so to speak, in your economic system. Beijing pledged a firm response to any action by Washington. They said that we urge the U.S. side to stop interfering in the Hong Kong issue and China's internal affairs in any form. Think about that. They referred to Hong Kong's issue as a Chinese internal affair. Now, that does not agree with the agreement that was made in 1997 when Britain handed over Hong Kong. It says here, the advisory won't demand specific action by banks, businesses, and investors that have transformed Hong Kong into one of the world's largest capitals alongside London and New York. Instead, it's meant to underscore the threats, legal, financial, and otherwise, that the U.S. sees as Beijing consolidates its grip. While businesses have grown increasingly uneasy about the city's shifting landscape, talking about how you're having the police crack down. The police there used to be loved, and now they're cracking down on civilians for saying things that speak out against China, that speak out against the potential step in and more infringement of China. If you speak out more now in Hong Kong than ever, you're going to get in trouble. It says here, non-Chinese firms should recognize that Hong Kong presents both unique business opportunities and newly compounded risks. There's no safety in numbers, but neither should firms join a stampede to exit. According to the People, the advisory will warn firms about the potential ramifications of Hong Kong's national security law imposed on the city by Beijing, which prohibits collusion with foreign forces or anything constructed as subverting the authority of the central government. Data that foreign companies store in Hong Kong could also be at risk. Citigroup said in May that it plans to hire 1,000 professionals across its wealth franchise in Hong Kong over the next 5 years, stepping up its expansion amid an increasingly heated grab for talent in the region. Goldman is hiring 320 staff in China and Hong Kong $4 trillion financial market fully to foreign brokerages and asset managers. Okay, so let's take a break so I'm not just rambling at you here. What they're saying is that China is going to use Hong Kong, and I'm going to show you now in this video clip from Patrick's podcast. General Spalding explains it. But China is using Hong Kong to economically continue to dominate and take over the world. By US dollars entering Hong Kong, China can go in and use HSBC, the big bank, to get those dollars and convert them into Chinese yuan, or keep those dollars for their own reserves. And what's even worse, if you look at the Didi situation that's been going on over the last 2 weeks, they let that IPO happen. Didi is a transportation company that basically beat Uber in China. They kicked Uber out, so to speak. So China allowed our money, Wall Street money, pension fund money, to flow into China, only then a few weeks later to crack down after the money was already in with the IPO, to crack down, and now look what's going on. Didi is all over the news. So China is not stupid. They want the capital inflows, but what you're going to hear General Spalding say in a second is that China doesn't want to take over America. They just want America to be operated and run in the same way that China is, under one party, and that would accomplish their mission of economic dominance. Okay? Let me just go on to read a little bit more of this article. China's one country, two systems approach to Hong Kong had already been under pressure before massive anti-government protests had erupted 2 years ago. Under Xi Jinping, Beijing quickly moved to silence independent voices, arresting protest leaders, imposing a national security law that allows for the extradition of people accused of crimes to China, and forcing the close of Apple Daily, a high-profile media outlet critical of corruption in the Communist Party. So they closed Apple Daily, everybody knows that, a few weeks ago. But just understand, what China said is, yeah, okay, Britain, leave Hong Kong, we're going to have one state, two systems, we'll be cool. Well, look, within 20 years, now they've stepped in and said, hey, we're actually going to impose a little bit of China rule. And then a couple of years later, a little bit more of China rule. And with that, they can actually take people out of Hong Kong, take them into China, and put them in jail, put them in a gulag, put them in a prison camp, and do whatever they want with them just for speaking out, just like they've done with all their billionaires. We don't need to go into that story. Just Google what happens to Chinese billionaires. You'll see a Vox video that'll explain the whole thing to you. It's really, really interesting. So now you kind of see the stage being set, right, with everything in Hong Kong. I hope that you guys are following me a little bit here. I know it's economic, it's not trading related, but it is still important to us as traders, because if everything comes to fruition, as Kyle Bass says, and as you can see now Biden stepping in and warning about Hong Kong, if it does come to fruition and they depeg the Hong Kong dollar from the US dollar because situation in China gets so bad that they're cracking down on Hong Kong so much that the US doesn't want to be involved anymore, then what happens? Currency markets explode. USD Hong Kong dollar could move 20%, 30% in a day. So let's watch this clip. Now, General Spalding has his own YouTube channel. He's been on the Patrick Bet David podcast many times, right? Thank you, David. Pugnacious. I appreciate you correcting me, bro. I appreciate you. So General Spalding has been on the show many times. I highly recommend you guys check him out. He lived in China for many, many years. What he's going to say now might just blow your mind. So listen.
It's more than that. It's about owning the bank. They own the Bank of China. So imagine if the mafia owned the Fed, what they could do.
So what he's saying is the Chinese Communist Party is in cahoots with HSBC. That is their national bank, is what he's saying. So follow it here.
Wow. Yeah, at one point, we're trying to. If they would have done that.
I mean, think about it. If the mafia owned the Fed, how would this country be different?
Are you kidding me? You can't say anything. You can control anything you want.
Anything you want.
They're taxing everybody and anybody. You make a list of the top earners and you just make one phone call.
Right. So who wants to do financial services in China right now?
Probably only the people that are involved with the government.
No. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley are fighting like cats and dogs to get in there to do financial services.
Because they want to get in bed with the CCP.
So what happened with Didi? What happened with Didi?
So Didi, this was great.
Can you pull this up?
So Didi gets a $4.4 billion IPO.
Now, what is Didi for people that don't know what Didi is?
So Didi, I used it when I was in China. It's like Uber.
Okay.
And if you remember, Uber was making great inroads, same as Tesla. I love this stuff, to watch these guys, these entrepreneurs that go in there and they think they can take over China. Like, I've got a different approach. Like, I'm going to go get friendly with the China.
Like, I'm going to make this work.
Like, why would they even think that's an option?
Well, so Uber goes in there and what happens? Didi.
So what he's saying is Uber, Tesla, even our banks go into China and act like we're going to do business with them on a friendly manner, and they ignore the human rights violations, the underlying belief system in the Communist Party. We don't care because of the dollar. Look at how much Elon talks about China being the next frontier, the future. He doesn't even discuss the fact that they are killing people in concentration camps. Hitler stuff. Real life today. It's happening right now. When we said in 1945, when we said we will never let this happen again after World War II, we're letting it happen again. And we are actually financing it. You can disagree with me. I don't care. That's a fact. We are financing the Communist Party through our banking system, which is the biggest one in the world. We are financing the new version of Hitler, basically. And on top of that, you got pawns like LeBron James and Elon Musk. They're pawns that feed the Chinese Communist Party ideal system into America. Let's keep going.
He takes them over. So Didi is like the Chinese Uber.
China Uber and Lyft put together.
Except think about what Didi can do now. Didi can collect all this information. They got cameras in the cars. They're collecting information about you, right?
Data.
Chinese Communist Party wants that data. And so what happens is they have this $4.4 billion IPO. So JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley are like pushing this. They're making millions of dollars on the IPO. What's his name? Jim Cramer. You got to be invested in Didi. As soon as the IPO closed and they got that $4.4 million into the Bank of China, the Chinese Communist Party said, okay, we're going to take the app off everything.
Just like I explained to you. As soon as they got the money, shut it off.
And we're going to basically...
Who owns Didi?
The Chinese Communist Party, obviously.
Why are they taking the app off everything?
Because they want to control the data that Didi has. The Chinese Communist Party wants to control the data.
Go back to that article again, Kai.
But here's the deal. They were going to do that anyway, but the party said, okay, let's get this $4 billion first, and then let's basically take control of Didi, right?
So they got the $4.4 billion from all of the pension funds and American money.
So
then they
what
shut it down.
happened during the Deng Xiaoping era is you had these private companies rise up, and you had these billionaires come, like Jack Ma, for example.
Yeah.
Same thing with Didi. Well, Didi comes up, it gets this IPO, and then the Chinese Communist Party knows they're going to shut down Didi because they want to take control of the data, but they let the IPO happen. So whose money is in that IPO? Whose money? Not JP Morgan's,
investors,
not Goldman Sachs, not Morgan Stanley. It's retirement funds. It's people
exactly.
who
Investors'
work
money. Yeah.
for a living in this country. The Chinese Communist Party are deliberately stealing from the American people, the people that work their ass off every single day, and the guys that are helping them push these equities: Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley,
And Jim Cramer.
Here's a question for you.
And by the way, where did, and this is, you may not know this, where did Jay Clayton come from, the last SEC chairman? What did he do?
I don't know.
Goldman Sachs? What was his big deal, claim to fame?
What was it?
Alibaba IPO.
Wow.
With Jack
I mean,
Ma.
if you don't understand how Wall Street and D.C. and the Chinese Communist Party create this trifecta to control our financial system to the detriment of the American people and for the benefit of the Chinese Communist Party, then you don't understand what's going on. You're going around looking at life like the Matrix, right? You're like,
He's not wrong. Think about it. Listen.
oh, I'm living my life and I'm eating chicken. But it's all fake. It's fake.
Let's talk to those people first.
He said, I'm eating chicken.
Second. So there's people out there. I mean, 75% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. We just got through this pandemic. We're getting through it. Stimulus checks. People are living their lives. They're not waking up being like, what's going on in the CCP today?
I hope everybody's starting to wake up and say what's going on in the CCP.
Right? Like everyone that works here, they're editing, they're filming. Like this is not the forefront of their mind. We're talking about it. It's very much in the forefront of mind. Let's talk to those people for a second who are just waking up, doing their job. 90% of Americans that don't have time to think about what, Chairman Xi said today. What is going on there that they should wake up and understand, holy shit, I got to stop fighting with my Democratic buddy or my Republican.
Let me give you this visual.
Break that down.
Let me give you this visual. If you can pull up a picture of Germany after the 8th Air Force bombing, just pull up some pictures of that and pull up pictures of Detroit today and tell me what you see. What I'm going to tell you you're going to see is you're going to see the same damn thing. So we sent bomber after bomber after bomber after bomber after Germany's industrial base, and we destroyed it, right? And the people suffered. People suffered greatly. The Chinese Communist Party did the same thing, and Detroit is a perfect example. So all the people you're talking about, how many of them actually are employed? How many of them had small businesses and that no longer have it? How many people have gone bankrupt because they have so a couple things. Modern monetary theory, which says you can print money and make everything go away, make the economy grow, right? And the other one is velocity money and the money multiple. So if we don't have people that are working in manufacturing, right? One manufacturing job leads to 4 jobs in the community. As that begins to dry up, the working class people are the ones that are destroyed, not the ones that are living in Wall Street that are making money off equities. That's what's going on is we have basically taken the middle class, the working class, and we have exported everything that had to do with the American dream, and we've left them, high and dry. And we've done that because this cabal of Wall Street, Washington, D.C., and the Chinese Communist Party.
So the reason I wanted to share that with you guys is because now you can hear from someone that lived in China, spoke Chinese, associated himself with Chinese culture. He was on the ground. He's got boots on the ground, and he's clearly a very smart man. He worked for our government in the military. You can hear in his voice the anger towards the Chinese Communist Party, not just towards them, but towards Wall Street for financing this and for DC for allowing this to happen. And why I'm sharing this and why I'm sharing the Hong Kong stuff, because to me, this is what mainstream media should be talking about. The biggest economic threat to America right now, in my opinion, is the Chinese Communist Party. It is not a Wuhan flu. That is not the biggest threat to the world right now. It's China. Straight up, it's China. So I think it's really important for us to just be aware of what's going on and to understand that as China influences the world, it will not look like it used to when we had the troops storming the beach. China's not invading us. China might try to take Taiwan, but they're not invading America. They need America. And what they want is for America to look like China. One party, one direction, tied in with them so tight that they can use our money in any way that they want, and will continue to finance their business ventures while they continue to focus on locking people up in concentration camps like Hitler did. So I think it's just important to keep sharing, and I appreciate you guys sitting through and listening. If you're interested, I have all the links to the video